where equality is just another euphemism for mediocrity, where participation is more highly valued than achievement, where just enough to get by is the new standard of excellence. There is a small minority of people who fight back against such apathy, who struggle daily to reach new heights. These brave few are the hope for the future, the bright shining light for the next generation. They are the ones who will lead us to the places we have never dreamed of, to the undiscovered country, to reach goals only a few can even begin to imagine. Unfortunately, none of those people could be here tonight, so kick back and relax. Prepare yourself for several hours of fun, friendship, fascinating conversation, and fabulous music. All those F's, that's an alliteration and kind of a radio trick. Speaking of radio, you're listening to the most popular radio station in the history of broadcast radio, at least among stations that originate from Chris's living room. It's Curious Times. Your host is a curious listener. Here she is, Chris.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome again to Curious Times. It's Monday, September 18th. Oh, my God. And Dianna Monroe is here. What we're going to do is listen to about a 22-minute thing and talk about that, which partly incorporates the Mandela effect and a few other concepts, and then we'll come back and discuss that. But in the meanwhile, I do want to just quickly say, here's what's coming up. Wednesday, we have the Kentucky Cave Creeper. Larry Johnson is going to be here. And he's done all kinds of cave exploring, but he's also done a lot of artifact hunting, and he's had a couple of very interesting experiences around that. And so while we can talk about all the various things that he's found along his way of caving, spelunking and whatnot, he can fill us in a little bit on this sort of paranormal activity that arose upon the discovery of something that he found, and perhaps we can shed some light on it for him even. Thursday, Jen Young is here. Saturday, the great Corinne DeWinter, and on Sunday, Garima is back. And so there you go. That's what's going on. Just for the short term, we have Lisa is on vacation, and they've messed around a bit with Salva's work schedule. So just in the short term, I want to leave Fridays open for Salva just in case they juggle her shift around again before I look at long-term booking somebody else on Fridays. And Lisa's just gone for 3 weeks. And so Nick Fox is here a week from tomorrow. And I saw the picture he had up on Facebook there. He's in Iceland. And so interesting, and has a baby. So there you go. That's a joke. Okay, but Dianna Monroe is here today. She's a psychic medium, a Reiki master and teacher. She does past life regressions, paranormal investigations, and she's an ordained minister. She's got various and sundry training in different modalities and other interesting things. You can find out more about Dianna and connect with her on her website at www.psychicfrontier.com. And I forgot to get that music again, right? Like some kind of old cowboy music or something, like the Wild Wild West Frontier kind of that. while we talk about her bio. So anyway, here comes Dianna. How you doing, Dianna?
I'm good. How are you doing, Chris?
Oh, good. It's a little chilly here, so I'm a little bit, I hate this time of year, but other than that, not bad. And really tired these days, too, Really tired.
Really?
Yeah, just tired. And I can't get it shifted back to proper, so, I might go lay down late afternoon and then, get about a 2-hour nap in, and then I don't want to wake up. You know what I mean? Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Getting old for sure, Brian. Thanks for reminding me, Brian. And so Brian in the chat room, getting old? Yeah. Yes. So yeah, he knows all about it. so then I don't want to even, like, I go, when I woke, and then I'm slightly disoriented, like, I woke, after my little nap. I woke after my little nap, and I was, like, startled at first, like, I didn't know, like, is it midnight, like, is it morning, is it, like, midnight, what time is it? And I found my way to my cell phone time module and clock, my cell phone clock, and it was like 7:25 or something my time, which is like 9:25 Eastern. And so I'm all like, I was just way time disoriented, you know. I didn't know if it was tomorrow, yesterday, daytime, nighttime, midnight, middle of the night. Didn't know. And but anyway, besides all of that, so I have about a 22-minute video or whatever. I can send you the link to it afterwards too, Dianna. And it's a young, way too smart for his own good kid called Max Laughan, Laughan. And he's talking about the Mandela effect and how it and maybe one of the causes of the Mandela effect. And then it made me think, you know, and tinker with his theory a little bit. So he's discussing the CERN machine. He's discussing also the multiverse. And perhaps explaining his take on why and how, what this mystery is of the Mandela effect. And for those people, the Mandela effect, it's like some people remember Berenstein Bears as Barenstein, and some people remember it as STAIN. And Sex in the City versus Sex and the City, the TV show. There's many other examples of it. And it's to say that we have different memories of the same thing. And how can that be? People will stake their life on that it's Sex in the City, not Sex and the City. But there it is now. It's in our current reality, it's Sex and the City. And yet, I know I remembered it as Sex in the City and Nelson Mandela's death. I mean, that's how it's named after. People remember him dying at way different times. And so, in the past, Dianna has come on and talked about that. And so, when this particular clip came my way, I instantly thought of Dianna and how it would be interesting to play this, and then have a little discussion with Dianna on the show about the content of this little genius's take on all of it, on the Mandela effect and the multiverse. And so, you ready to listen to that, Dianna?
Yeah. I think it sounds like it's going to be fascinating.
All right, here we go. This kid is too much, you know what I mean? But here we go. He's doing this it's almost as though his family's sitting around because he's got a sandwich half eaten. So it's like they sat down to maybe eat lunch or something, and then he starts blah, 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 and so his father starts recording. You know what I mean? Is how it looks. And so here we go.
Of universes and infinite parallel universes constantly being created is literally flow of reality and time as we know it. So technically there's a universe in which God can exist, right? So like as your book suggests, God is everything because of E = mc squared. Literally God is within and can be everything. But then again, if there's an infinite number of parallel universes, there is an infinite possibility that there's a parallel universe in which God does not exist or is more powerful. In other words, can God create an unliftable stone or object? If so, then God should not be able to lift it. But if God is truly powerful, then he should be able to lift it, and therefore he can't create an unliftable stone. So that's a paradox right there. Anyway, but the point about that is that that means that there is power that is greater than God. And considering that there is an infinite number of vibrations and therefore an infinite number of realities within our dimensional space, or I guess alter-dimensional space, considering that they're either higher or lower, still in the same confined space, there is an infinite number of parallel realities with an infinite number of parallel dimensions that actually can create a powerful or a less powerful form of God equals MC squared as we know it. Unfortunately, though, this is a paradox, quite how we encounter one with Aleph Null. In other words, imagine a line, right? And then from that line, you put a smaller line that is a fraction of, that is a fraction closer to the original line, and then the same thing for that line, the same thing for that. Eventually you'll end up with this triangle shape, and that triangle shape is infinity, technically, in a confined space. Now, of course, infinity can't really be put in a confined space, but imagine it.
Okay, we're finding science.
Right.
She's trying to draw it, so I'll
Mom, do you have a marker?
I'm doing the dishes, kid. Leave me alone. I think this is what he's trying to draw.
Anyway, so imagine it like this, right?
Oh, my camera's
There's one line, and then a fraction closer, and a fraction smaller is the next line. And then a fraction closer and a fraction smaller is the next line, so on and so on and so on. Till eventually we get this sort of thing. It's a little bit like this. Now, that's infinity in a confined space because there's nothing here or here, because this is still there. But what happens when you add a line here? Now, that is actually still infinity, because it's still in the same place, but it's not in a confined space, you may say. So then what if we do the same thing over here? Well, no matter how much you do it, it is technically still infinity. This quantity is still infinity. And you could do this forever and then do an even bigger version of that, so on and so on. But if you're talking about this being Aleph Null, and this also being Aleph Null, that can't really be possible. So if we're ordering in one, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 and then what comes after that, we get an interesting term, which is omega, which is the lowercase form of omega, you might know, but we're talking about lowercase here. And then after omega necessarily isn't bigger than Aleph Null, it's just an ordered form of infinity. So imagine it like this, omega plus 1, and then omega plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5, and so on and so on and so on and so on, until eventually we get to the omega, 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 all the way up for Aleph Null to omega, to omega, to omega. You get the point. Anyway, what we're getting here is we're getting into a factoring infinity to the highest level. And after that, eventually you get other facts like trin and a whole bunch of other higher infinities. And a lot of theorists, such as myself, have believed to figure out these highest infinities to a point where we start to get to our cardinals. And after we get to our cardinals, we start to get to uncountable cardinals. For more information, you can go to a Vsauce video, How to Count Past Infinity. It basically reviews this infinite information if you don't understand it. But the point...
I think there are many people who understand this, other than you, Max Laughlin. So you were saying back to the E equals MC squared and the new definition of God, which was our original conversation. You're saying it's accurate, but you're saying it's not accurate.
Right, so just like quantum physics and superposition, everything can be in a state of either positive and negative at the same time, rather than positive or negative, as we know in our mechanical classical world here. But that means that there is an infinite number of parallel universes in our multiverse. Move that there and focus more here on these ones. In our multiverse, and there's an infinite number of these realities. And in each reality, as every electron spins an animeter of an animeter to an animeter to an animeter around a nuclei of an atom, we're catapulted into, an infinite number of alternate universes. Just imagine this is the start of the universe. This is our original timeline, right? But as soon as this starts, we are infinitely catapulted into an infinite number of parallel universes. And somewhere infinity down the line, here's our universe, right? And then we're constantly shifting into alternate universes as we speak. And that expansion of infinite universes is our reality as we know it in time. So therefore, if there are other universes, they're next to ours, and this actually relates to my theory of the Mandela effect and how the particle accelerator altered the weight of one electron and therefore destroyed our universe and shifted us into the universe that's directly next to it, and therefore things are different in this universe.
So you believe that this thing that some people call the Mandela effect is actually real?
Oh, it's absolutely real.
Can you describe what it is for people who have never heard it before?
Sure. So the Mandela effect is the effect of some people thought that Nelson Mandela died at a certain time, and other people remember it at a different time. And this goes for a lot of other things, Star Wars, classic videos, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Everybody knows that. Well, if you actually look back to the original film, it's not Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. It's Magic Mirror on the Wall. And some people actually...
Which, of course, it's not.
It's not,
in
right.
the reality I grew up in.
Right, exactly. And, I mean, some people in this reality, I guess, maybe didn't make it from our last reality, I'm thinking. I'm still trying to figure out why they don't remember it, and some people do. But anyway, though, that is the Mandela effect, and we are living in an alternate expansion of our universe. Even in my own scientific notes, I've found rewritten signatures and things that are a little bit different from originally what I wrote.
So how did that actually happen? Let's take your notebook, or let's take Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, like an old film, animated film. How did it actually change?
Well, it never changed. We changed. You see, we were moving relative to our universe, and then our universe destroyed, so now the universe started to move, or I guess our parallel universes, our multiverse started to move parallel to us because we were out of alignment and that just destroyed everything. So technically, the universe didn't change, we did.
Just a little pause there. Just my accident. We weren't deleting anything. People were saying, "Oh, what's going on?" Because I had a text coming in. So there are two studios. Let's say the Disney studios. One studio, Studio A, creates a film that has Magic Mirror on the Wall. Another studio says Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Is it two separate studios, or what happened?
No, same studio, different timeline. So, good thing we have a multi-layered napkin.
This is very high-tech in terms of our graphics.
Definitely sophisticated.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so as I said...
Because I love that one, because everyone remembers Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. I mean, there's no one, and there's the whole Sally Field, you like me, you really, really like me, and blah, 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 and now it's you like me. They will come, build it, he will come. The peace sign. Oh, really? I didn't know about that one.
Oh, yeah, there's so much. I have a record of all the ones that I've been able to smash.
Of course you do.
Some other stuff that I should tell you personally about later.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, infinity down the line from our original timeline, where here's ours, and then of course this timeline is only moving forward because, well, the expansion of infinite number of realities behind it. But what happened was we made this universe sort of out of balance, and our universe,
because of the collider, the super collider.
Yeah, we altered the weight of a single electron, which I believe shifted us into a parallel universe, considering that we caused a chain reaction that could have catastrophically destroyed our universe. I mean, even when we thought about starting it, we thought our universe would implode, and then it didn't, and we're like, oh, it's okay. Well, maybe it did implode. We just instantly got shifted to another universe.
And that's your belief?
Right, in my belief. Of course, this is just a theory and it's still being developed.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe in that infinitely small moment of time, we were instantly shifted.
Could it also be that there were some people at CERN who are kind of like quantum hackers, and they go, we have this little vulnerability in time-space continuum, and we're going to go in and we're going to pick these iconic moments in our civilization, mirror, mirror on the wall, things like that, and we're going to change them just to screw up people's heads to realize that reality is not as they think it.
That could be completely possible, although there's some stories, fairy tales, campfire, scary tales that occurred at CERN, supposedly, or that are set at CERN, dimensional beings or satanic portals, a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. And a lot of people believe they have to do that to consistently maintain our universe, or bridging two universes or dimensions even together. Now, then again, they're fairy tales.
Okay.
And since when are fairy tales real? But then again, all fairy tales are based off of something. Anyway.
Back to eternity.
Right.
Go ahead.
So, when this universe was destroyed, then again, here's our progression of infinite expansion of parallel universes. And here's ours. When this one just destroyed itself, and as I said, there's an infinite number of parallel universes. That means there's an infinite possibility that everything contained within our infinite range happened, existed, will happen. For example, there's a reality where possibly maybe this world didn't even occur. Maybe there's a reality where our universe instantly started and then destroyed itself. There's an infinite number of possibilities. But however,
is such an incredible thing to try to wrap your head around, right? It's almost impossible.
Yeah,
See, just the word infinity is almost impossible to really completely understand.
Then again, there are higher levels of infinity, as you'll see in the video.
Higher levels of infinity. So
yeah,
infinity is not just infinity. Variations on that theme.
Higher levels of infinity. There's smaller infinities. There's larger infinities. It's hard to wrap your mind around that there is something larger than everything.
Which is, how do you...
It's even a paradox as itself. It's an oxymoronic phrase.
And that's where you come back to God. Well, God could be God of the universe and the multiverse, but then...
There must be another multiverse of multiverses of multiverse where there's a universe where there is another more powerful or less powerful or equal God as we define it in E = MC², the new definition of God.
So other than you and maybe a few other people, we're really not going to figure this out, are we?
Not for a while, no. I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, so the funny thing
do you feel like you have it figured out?
Well, I think I do, yeah. But then again, this is all just a theory, and since when can you prove a theory about infinite universes and infinity and alternate realities? When can you prove that? So, do I think that I know it? I think that I might have some basic, very, very basic idea, even gist, of what possibly could be happening. But then again, this is just theoretical physics, and even, the title, it's theoretical.
Right.
I don't actually know everything that's happening. There's never that I can. So, really, it's just a matter of how much do I think that I can explain the unexplainable. And maybe I'm not even explaining at all.
Right, but and any of this stuff is so vast and so amazing. It's just like, people's concepts are completely blown of anything once they tap into these larger realities. Anyway, let's finish this and see if we can at least understand straight lines here and the Mandela effect.
Right, so universes that are right next to each other, and as I said, these are infinitely close yet infinitely far away from each other. We have our universes. And the farther away a universe is, the more different it is because of each individual event. Now, the distance and amount of universes between these two lines is infinite. Like, it's kind of crazy. You can't draw it or visualize it. It's just infinite between each line, and then an infinite line between their lines, and lines and lines and lines and lines, infinite. But anyway, somewhere down the infinity over here, we have a parallel universe, right? And in this parallel universe, maybe it's completely different. Like, everything is completely different. Like, maybe our entire existence is nothing and never will happen, but maybe maybe time's running backwards, or maybe everything is slightly off in a way, like universes aren't created from nuclear reactions, more just form, and then nuclear reactions occur, which then create more universes, which then reverse to create other universes. As I said, infinite universes, infinite everything. So there's an infinite number of possibilities. And even as I speak this, my very speaking of this is creating an infinite number of universes, and in one, and in many of them, this is exactly possible.
Okay, so back to, see if we can wrap this up, the Mandela effect, and let's have at least one human being who might watch this potentially be able to understand what you're saying.
Right. So when our universe was destroyed over here,
and this was, you think, when CERN Super Collider did its experiment?
Large Hadron Collider, yeah.
Or the Hadron?
Large Hadron Collider, right.
Okay.
And so after our universe and timeline was destroyed, we were, let's zoom this in a lot, zoom, 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 and the universe that's directly next to ours, it's just directly next to ours. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred from form to form. But if there are an infinite number of universes, then there's 100% chance that this happened, at least maybe in another universe, maybe not ours. Then again, there's also an infinite chance that this is our universe. So if this one was eliminated, all the energy from this universe created or transferred a universe that was right next to us.
So the original universe is mirror, mirror on the wall. The transferred to universe is magic mirror on the wall.
Right, and even if you have quantum data or other things that possibly could help calculate these claims, then you'll find that there is a fluctuation pattern of which our universe is on a similar plane. So if this is our plane, there's a universe in this plane, which means that this is a larger dip and this is a smaller dip. So that way there's a fluctuation in our reality of actually things that are real to us but are different in other realities. So there's a consistent fluctuation, and I think this fluctuation is known as Mandela effect for some things, and a lot of things are the same, but other things are, very different. So in this universe, it's pretty much almost exactly the same as ours, to the fact that we're all here, almost, and that everything that we see is pretty much the same.
What do you mean almost?
Almost as in, I don't know. There's an infinite number of possibilities, so there has to be at least an infinite possibility that somebody on this planet is gone from that time. Or maybe there is an infinite possibility that there is. But the point is that it's a parallel universe to ours. So it is not our universe. It's not ours. But
so we are now not in the same universe that we were in when Mirror, Mirror on the Wall was a part of a film.
Well, that's what I'm theorizing, yeah.
So we're in a different universe.
Exactly, completely different universe.
Even though it looks almost otherwise completely the same.
Is exactly the same, except for that 0.0000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 difference.
Right.
And that 1% difference is large on our scale, or even small on our scale, but it's still different. Enough that it's able to contain our energy, but not enough that it's the same. As I said, it's a parallel universe. It's not the same as ours. And if we have to arrive at the same time that we left, then there has to be difference. There's that fluctuation. And one of these fluctuations is maybe something different. Maybe one person decided to walk on the other side of the sidewalk, as is uncertainty. At least in our future. I mean, if you're in a higher dimension like the fifth dimension or looking on our fourth dimension, uncertainty is just a matter of which way you're going, like a road. But to us, uncertainty doesn't happen because we can only see the present as it's happening. But anyway, so parallel universe fluctuation.
So, Mary, is it mirror, mirror on the wall or magic mirror on the wall?
Mirror, mirror.
Mirror, mirror. Definitely a vote for mirror, mirror.
Right.
Right?
Actually, there was a movie that was done. Julia Roberts was in a movie called Mirror, Mirror.
Yeah.
based off of that quote.
Right, but maybe that movie is now called Magic Mirror.
Actually, I checked. It's Mirror.
Okay, so they didn't change that.
Right, but then again, there's parallel universe where they did change that, or we just shifted into parallel universe, but that also changed. That one thing also changed, and you can find that multiple things have changed.
Where it wasn't Julia Roberts, it was Meryl Streep.
Right.
Again, I think what's exciting, and someone who is less sophisticated than you, like myself.
No. Everybody is exactly the same. Everybody pretty much is equal, just in different ways, more accurately. Like one person is equal in maybe his ability to identify multiple different forms of color, but to him that's just regular.
Right. What's the name of that? What's the name of that crab or something that hammers
the mantis
people?
Shrimp?
Yeah, the what? The
mantis shrimp?
Right, can see like a million different kinds of colors.
12 different color planes. We can only see 3 different color planes. It could see 12.
Right, so cool. Anyway, the point that I was trying to make when I was talking about sophistication, the bottom line, which you've been repeating in many different ways throughout this little Facebook Live thing, is that infinite universes and just the very concept of infinity is pretty mind-boggling. I mean, but it affects everything on at least a theoretical basis.
Well, yeah, everything and nothing.
And there we go.
Yeah, so it's pretty uncertain, but then again, uncertainty is uncertain. And uncertainty can be certain and uncertain at the same time.
There you go. No, I think that sums it up. There it is, quantum physics right there. From say your name.
Maxwell Lawson.
And you are a.
Well, I'm a theoretical physicist.
Of course, and you're how old?
13.
Thank you, Max.
Okay. So I'll give you guys the link to the original video that I got of that. It's also on YouTube. So that's very interesting. I got a bunch of stuff that swirls around in my head when I listen to that. And so let's go get Dianna back on. Hi, Dianna. Wait. Dianna, can you? Okay, there you are. You there? Dianna? Unmute did you mute your phone? Hello?
Am I there now?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, quite a remarkable kid, number one. It gives rise to me to so many possibilities. That doesn't have to include that our universe got wiped out and we all skipped over next door to the next parallel universe. In fact, for me, it kind of, the reason why I might think it's Sex and the City and you might think it's Sex in the City is that one of us jumped, not the whole. You know what I mean? And so he's contemplating the possibility that the whole of our universe was basically destroyed, and in that instant of that happening, all of our collective energy jumped into the next parallel universe. And I'm more along the lines of going, perhaps a traumatic thing or some kind of anomaly happens individually for some of us, and then people, and then like if you and I have jumped universes, we might not have come from the same universe, but we've both wound up here. Or I might have originated on this universe and stayed in this universe the whole time, but maybe you jumped in, or vice versa. And this might even explain, like, missing people and all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. And there may be people who can intentionally, have mastered the ability to intentionally jump to another parallel universe, much like some of the shows that we've had in our, in our entertainment industry. The jump, one of them, what was it? The word jump was in it. Quantum leap, and there were a couple of others. But so, what do you make of that? What do you think? What are your comments or thoughts on that?
Well, nothing he said felt really wrong. The intuitive feeling I get is that those are all very strong possibilities, but that's still just kind of chipping away at the iceberg. You know what I mean? There's just so much beyond that at this point in time or dimension, whatever, we don't have the tools yet to comprehend everything that's going on. Even if we knew what it was, I don't think we'd be able to understand it yet. I think we're coming into that, but we're not there yet.
Well, and again, like, just to expand upon this kid's thinking here is perhaps, and then perhaps what it is that you or I in a whole different universe, you or I do understand it. You know what I mean? But here
right.
We don't, and then to account for some of the geniuses that we get, like maybe they've jumped over, so it's really fascinating to me though, and nothing is impossible, everything is possible. But this thinking that because sometimes you feel like just so, and then maybe this explains like some of these people who feel like that they're that they're some kind of earthbound, or I shouldn't say that, that they're some kind of a walk-in. You know what I mean? Maybe that's, maybe it's a whole different idea, and they kind of jumped in from a different. Now, what about the possibility that we can trade? That we're trading places with our own self, universe to universe to universe. Know what I mean?
Well, we could be. We're so multi-dimensional that we could have all these different versions of ourselves, or the same version of ourselves, but in different places or dimensions simultaneously. Like you said, all things are possible.
Right.
It's just our ability to wrap our mind around it, in terms of being aware of that reality.
Right. Yeah. And so, it's, I just thought, like, good on this kid, to have his head wrapped around such a thing at this point. And, again, I don't think he's too far off the mark. And there are these different, that's the interesting thing is that we have talked about, and others have talked about, like, different timelines. So what the concept is that there's one Earth, one of us collectively on two possible timelines. And if we do A, then we'll have kumbaya forever. But if we continue on with B, total destruction, mayhem, hell, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, like, that on this universe, like, timeline A is going B. It's like not even timeline A and B. It's like timeline A to quadruple ZZ. You know what I'm saying? Like an infinite number of them, as the kids said, infinite number of times the word infinite. The possibilities are endless, really. And so every one of these, and maybe we're playing out every possible. You know how sometimes they have those stories where it's like where they've written multiple different endings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so and that could be very well it. And again, like maybe on a bigger level, maybe it's very intentional that we want to experience every one of those possibilities, but we have to do this simultaneously in different universes at the same time rather than consecutively. We need to be doing it at the same time. And so it's just like very, very interesting. But that could explain so much, really, why because there's been things like that I'm like, I would swear under oath that I said or did this, or we have people that are going, I did not do that. I did not do that. what you said I did not do. You know what I mean? And you're as sure that I did do it as I know that I didn't. And maybe we're both right. And maybe I just don't remember it because it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was some other me who's now, you know, in a different place and time. And so I think it's really mind-bending stuff. And I really love that kind of stuff, though, personally. I really love that. So, yeah. Because it gives me a different take on, and then I love it because, like, I am a thinker. I think all the time about this kind of stuff. And I think much more than I say, if you can believe that, right? Because I talk an awful lot. But, but this gives me like extra stuff to process, and then I can go, oh, but what if, and it's almost like the seed. It's almost like a seed that starts to grow another thought path for me. You know what I mean? And so I think that's pretty cool. And so I gave you guys the link in the chat room, and I'll forward it to you in Facebook. But I'm not going to do much more right now on my computer because everything seems so laggy. And then I had this thing, which is like I came across this like 10 mind-blowing facts about the CERN. So number one is there's no democratic debate. CERN is presently ramping up the largest atom collider in the world. It takes months for the magnets to get the particles to reach near light speed, and in preparation for their next atomic collision, which is scheduled to take place next month. Now, when was this written? Like, this could be, I just want to see when this was written. This is
written in the future,
Yeah. This was in 2013. Released in 2013. And then published August 31st. So this article is published August 31st, 2015. But so he's saying, and this might be the event that the kid is trying to refer to in his discussion. Although I feel that the Mandela effect's been around a lot longer than since before 2015. You know what I mean? And so, but time doesn't exist, and blah, 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 in another universe, 2015 hasn't happened, I don't know. But anyway, CERN has been so now, since some critics say the scientific experiment possesses greater risks than even the tests prior to the introduction of the atomic bomb, it would stand to reason that there should be much more discussion into this dark matter. Sadly, and not a little ironically, CERN, which essentially governs itself as its own fiefdom, is operating just as invisibly as the particles that they're attempting to study. However, CERN has been the trailblazer on a number of other highly credible projects, which may tempt people to give them the benefit of the doubt regarding CERN, which certainly ranks as one of the most comprehensive and expensive scientific experiments in history. In 1989, under the guidance of Tim Berners-Lee, CERN began the World Wide Web project, which led to the first web page in history. On April 30th, 1993, CERN announced that the World Wide Web would be free to anyone. So same people gave us the internet, basically. You know what I mean? So then another mind-blowing fact or whatever, although most corporations shun any connection with religion and spiritual world, CERN has chosen as its mascot the Hindu goddess Shiva.
For destruction.
The goddess of destruction. And then their logo, which can give rise to paranoia, could be interpreted to be 3 6s. But it could be 3 9s. It could just be, but not any one of them. It really is positioned to be an upright 6, but just in the way that they're positioned. So have a look at the CERN logo. Tapping into dark matter. Astonishingly, Astrophysical observations have demonstrated that all visible physical matter accounts for only 4% of the universe. Now the race is on at CERN to find those elusive particles or phenomena responsible for dark matter, which would be 23%, and dark energy, which would be 73%. Essentially, what the CERN experiment hopes to achieve is to separate, by way of the atom smasher, the invisible dark matter, which has been described as the very glue that holds together, from the visible. There's just one problem with this experiment. Nobody has any idea what the consequences will be if that goal is achieved. So once again, this dark versus visible paradigm has generated a battle that transcends the scientific world, becoming a question involving philosophy and spirituality. CERN's curious choice of geographic location, on top of all the speculation as to what CERN scientists are really attempting to do with their large Hadron Collider, many observers could not help but notice that the town in France where CERN is partially situated is called Saint-Genès-Pouilly. The name Pouilly comes from the Latin Apolliacum, or Apolliacum, and it is believed that in Roman times a temple existed in honor of Apollo, and the people who lived there believe that it's a gateway to the underworld. It's interesting to note that CERN is built on the same spot. Religious leaders, always suspicious of the aims of the scientific world, drew a connection to a verse straight out of Revelations, which makes a reference to the name Apollyon. The verse states, "To him was given the key of the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and they had a kind over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon." Now try telling a spiritual leader that the Bible is a conspiracy theory. Opening the door to other dimensions. 1 year after CERN's grand opening, Sergio Bertolucci, former director for research and scientific computing of the facility, grabbed headlines when he told the British tabloid the super collider could open otherworldly doors to another dimension for a very tiny lapse of time, mere fractions of a second. However, that may be just enough time to peer into this open door, either by getting something out of it or sending something into it. Of course, added Bertolucci, after this tiny moment, the door would again shut, bringing us back to our normal four-dimensional world. It would be a major leap in our vision of nature and, of course, no risk to the stability of our world. Naturally, this comment has triggered fears that the CERN collider could unwittingly invite unwanted visitors from other time-space dimensions. And they're contemplating the possibility, like in the movie, what's the one where the dinosaurs are running around and everything? Anybody for dinosaurs strolling along the Champs-Élysées, or alien life forms using the entire planet? Such scenarios, at least for some scientists, like remember Planet of the Apes, right? That kind of a thing. At least for some scientists, are no longer confined to the fictional world of Isaac Asimov's novels. With the ongoing work at CERN, there's even talk of opening up a portal for time travel, which I think already has been. You know what I mean? Simply postulating such futuristic scenarios shows how far mankind has traveled in a relatively short expanse of time, and our dystopic future predicted in books like Brave New World in 1984 may already be here. Will man be able to control the technology he's created, or will the technology destroy him, his works, and with it, it's the entire planet? Just a couple more to go. Stephen Hawking is worried. Although it may require some mental gymnastics to wrap one's brain around exactly what the CERN scientists are attempting to achieve, their underground lab, the average layman may instinctively understand that such an experiment may be wrought with unforeseeable pitfalls. Stephen Hawking, the eminent physicist, seems to agree. The God, quote, the God particle found by CERN could destroy the universe, he wrote in a preface to a book, Starmus, a collection of lectures by scientists. The Higgs boson could become unstable at very high energy levels and have the potential to trigger a catastrophic vacuum decay, which would cause space and time to collapse, and we would not have any warning to the dangers. Hawking is not the only voice in the scientific wilderness predicting possible catastrophe if CERN continues in the atomic fast lane. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson told Eugene Mirman on his Star Talk radio program that the experiment could literally cause the planet to explode. And in late 2008, when CERN was the first firing up the engines of its atom-smashing machine, Otto Rosler, a German professor at the University of Tübingen, filed a lawsuit against CERN with the European Court of Human Rights on the grounds that the facility could trigger a mini black hole that could get out of control and annihilate the planet. The court tossed out his request, but he nevertheless succeeded in generating heated discussion on the possible dark side of the experiment. CERN generates extreme temperatures. There may be another reason for the CERN super collider being buried hundreds of feet underground. The unbelievable hot temperatures it can reach. How hot, do you ask? Well, about as hot as conditions on the universe after the Big Bang, or more than 100,000 times the temperature at the center of the Earth. This will be achieved, CERN says, by accelerating and colliding together two beams of heavy ions, an epic scientific event that will take place next month. I think that's the particular event this kid's talking about, the CERN event. There's a massive gravitational pull. The CERN collider is composed of some 9,600 supermagnets, which are 100,000 times more powerful than the gravitational pull of Earth, that fire protons around a circular track of mind-boggling speeds. A beam might rotate for up to 10 hours, traveling a distance of more than 10 billion kilometers, enough to make it to the far reaches of our solar system and back again. Traveling just below the speed of light, a proton in the LHC will make 11,245 circuits every second. No less amazing are the magnet's coils, which are made up of 36 twisted 15-millimeter strands, each strand comprised in turn of 6,000 to 9,000 single filaments, each filament possessing a diameter as small as 7 micrometers. The 27-kilometer length of the LHC demands some 7,600 kilometers or 4,100 miles of cable, which amounts to about 270,000 kilometers or 145,000 miles of strand, more than enough to circle the Earth 6 times at the equator. According to CERN, the CERN website, if the filaments were unraveled, they would stretch to the sun and back 5 times, with enough left over for a few trips to the moon. And finally, CERN is the world's biggest machine, straddling the French-Swiss border. The $9 billion CERN Collider complex is buried at a deep depth of up to 575 feet. The tunnel complex runs along a 17-mile circuit. Scientists involved in the project say the laboratory was built underground because the Earth's crust provides protection against radiation. They also say that it was buried out of respect for natural landscape, which sounds slightly ironic considering the massive damage the collider could possibly cause down the road. And so I'll give you guys that link also, and then you can check out the CERN website if you so desire. And I'm frozen up again, so I need to refresh my page. That's frustrating. I had it fixed, and then I had another update. So it's so stupid if I have to keep going and making these changes to my browser every time there's a silly update. I don't know what they're doing. It seems to be taking me a while to load up as well. So I don't know, Diana. I have grade 9 science, so.
You what?
I have grade 9 science, so I'm a little behind. I can't, I can't pretend to. But in a sort of I don't know how to say it, but maybe my higher self or my some inner part of me understands a lot more than I can articulate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I think more and more people now are noticing not only, I don't know, I think Mandela effect, the term kind of limits it a little bit because I think there's just multiple things going on around that stuff. But I think more and more people are kind of tuning into it now. Whether, I don't know if anyone really understands that much about it except maybe that 13-year-old kid. He seems pretty with it, but even then, I just had a feeling, yeah, he is spot on, but he's just got this little itty-bitty piece, and everyone, if he or she is paying attention, is getting being shown some of the effects of CERN because it is so devastating.
Yeah.
And will be going forward. And I know for a fact, I forget, there was something you read where it talked about time travel or something. Well, I know, as I've worked with some other psychic people, we've worked on closing portals that were opened up by CERN all over the world and letting stuff in you don't want here.
Listen, I would not want to blame every portal on CERN because if they only began operations, in a certain in this century, right? Like I believe that these portals, there have been portals that have been existing sooner before 2015, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. But CERN, by its own admission, granted, who knows if they're telling anything that's true or not, but I mean, they're going full gun. You know what I mean? They're basically saying, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing this and doing that. They're pulling out all the stops to do whatever they can, whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's not for the good of this planet or for humanity.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know. See, that's where you and I often disagree because I think that you have a tendency, and it doesn't mean that's wrong, but you have more of an inclination to be suspicious and believing that there's dark and negative and bad and evil. And I'm not, entirely convinced of that. And yes, it's possible that there are awful, devious, horrible, terrible people that want to destroy us all. But they're also then destroying themselves. And okay, now you can argue, well, they can just get on and just jump over just before the actual total destruction of all of us. They can skip over next door to the next, to the next universe. But what about the idea, Diana? Do you remember, remember when the whole big discussion was always, ascension, and remember 11/11 and 2011 and 11/11/11 and all of the and the mass ascension is going, and then there's others
programming,
right, and there was others that had this theory that a bunch of motherships would come and take all the good people to a twin planet of Earth, to a second Earth, and all the bad people would stay behind and get exploded and dead, and all the good people would move to the new Earth. And I'm all like, what about the concept that in the very moment of a blast like that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In the very millisecond of that blast, all of our energy shifts to the next dimension. Most of us make it there. You know what I mean? And so all of this is possible. I think that if we want it, there are people that are suspicious of any and all kind of science, but it cannot be discounted the remarkable achievements that science has given us also, And so I'm not sure that there's a master plan to destroy, because guess what? I think that they could just do it in a much simpler way. You know what I mean? Guys like that, they could just build a bomb and blow the earth up. Why did they have to go to all of this other trouble? You know what I mean?
I think they're having fun with it.
And maybe they're not even from this earth. You know what I mean? Maybe they're from another earth. But
I never thought they were. I don't think they're from Earth at all.
Well, all I'm saying, though, is, like, we don't have to necessarily think of all of this as bad, evil, horrible, dark, out to get us kind of stuff, you know? I guess time will tell, but if the whole thing explodes on us, none of us needs to worry because we won't see it coming. We won't, that's the perfect ending, really. Who wants to linger in some... It's better than Donald Trump pushing a red button and causing a nuclear war to start. You know what I mean? And then people, like, dying long, miserable, suffering deaths, Like, I would much rather that the whole planet just go, poof, gone. And I think that because all of our souls live on anyways, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities that all of us just shift over, and maybe we all don't even go to the same alternate universe, right? Parallel universe.
Don't leave it all. Maybe they just change the energy to fit the new environment.
I'm saying, like, if they explode the whole of Earth, you know what I mean? Then there is no, there's nothing here, and so everything's vaporized, whatever. Sure, maybe we all become vapor, but isn't that, in a sense, what happens when we die anyway? Like, there's no physical body, then, is what I'm getting at, right? So I don't want to waste, I would rather spend my time thinking excitedly about all of the possibilities of that than worrying about they're out to get us to destroy us. You know what I mean?
Okay.
When I see stuff like this, because I think it is, I think it is exciting. And no matter what, there's always going to be somebody that takes something and weaponizes it or uses it for bad. That's the human. That's what people do. But that doesn't mean that the invention or the creation itself was evil, right? Or that the people who invented or created it were evil. Somebody took that item or that thing into their hands and made it and used it for evil purposes. But the original creation and use of it was not ever evil or intended to be evil. And so what people do with things, look at the internet. Without the internet, but then with the internet, it's exposed some of us to bullying. It's exposed some people to hacking, and so loss of money, loss of security, loss of privacy. But there's good and there's bad with this great creation called the internet and computers, right?
The world and humanity definitely changed significantly with the internet. I'm not saying it's all good or all bad. It's just...
But have they? Or did the internet start out being a really excellent, amazing thing, and a few people took it and they used it for bad, and a lot of people took it and they use it for good? But the people originally inventing the internet weren't attempting to do some evil, terrible, horrible thing.
You're sure of that?
Oh, I'm pretty sure of that. I'm grateful for the internet. Like, without the internet, oh my God. You know what I mean? The people that I've met, never ever would meet, is worth the price of admission, I mean, it's like, if you look at it, like, take the vehicle, cars. Okay, cars have been great. Oh my God, but people die in cars every day. Right? So no matter what it is, there's good and there's bad to every single thing, right? But does that mean would you prefer that we still be in the caves then with no inventions, no technological advancements at all? And we still be in caves? Because guess what? There were bad cavemen too. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I'm not opposed to all technology.
And so I guess that the difference between us is that you're more, and maybe you're right, and I'm absolutely wrong. But I mean, you're more inclined to be super suspicious of more things than I am. That's all. That's the difference between us, you know? And so as we've said a million times, we'll get over to the other side and all go, oh shit, we were all wrong, you know?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me a bit.
But how many different other sides are there now, you know?
How many what?
Well, if there's an infinite number of universes, then is there only one other side, or is there a different other side for everyone? Like, let's say that I'm living out 10,000 different existences in 10,000 different universes. Is there only one other side, quote unquote other side, or is there like 10,000 different like heavens? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whether or not there is another side, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's what we're told. And
well, you're a medium, aren't you? A psychic medium?
Well, whatever we're picking up on, whether it's a certain place or a vibration that we refer to as the other side, I don't know exactly what it is. You know, we all get the impressions, but I just think it's so vast, whatever this entity or part of our existence or life is, that I just don't think we really can have a clue yet. Like you said, when we hopefully we take our last breath here and we'll see a lot more, you know, put it together. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right.
Right. Yeah.
But didn't we have fun in our ignorance, you know what I mean, trying to figure it all out? You know, because it is fun to try and put the pieces together and just practice being awake and aware. Think how many people, maybe it's not that prevalent where you live, but, you know, I see zombies every day. You know, I see people that refuse to hold an independent thought. So, you know, just the fact that we're discussing this and you know, just throwing out ideas and things, to me that's exciting. That's life, you know, that's living life.
Yeah.
I think we need to keep asking the questions and keep, you know, talk to other people and see what their impressions are. Because I know with this so-called Mandela effect, I've just had all kinds of bizarre experiences myself, and I talk to other people, and they don't have real similar experiences sometimes, but a lot of people are just noticing more kind of funky experiences that they have. Have you had any lately? I know one I've had twice now. It's so new to me. I still can't quite wrap my mind around it, so I can't really articulate it effectively. But I've had experiences where I've just known, I've just felt like I'm in multiple dimensions simultaneously for like a period of time. And I've talked to other people that had not the same thing, but, you know, kind of similar in terms of that level of funky, you know, what are you talking about type of subject. That I think these types of experiences people are having, I think it's just going to increase if we're really paying attention. You know, the zombie people, a lot of them, they might notice little fringe things of experiences they have, but they don't put enough attention to it. They're not awake and aware enough to, you know, really give it any attention.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's the beautiful thing about it. You're absolutely right. There's like people that are just, you know, motoring through. They don't give any idea to, like, they're purely material people. You know what I mean? Like, life is just here for them to have a car and a necklace, or, you know, diamonds in a car or something. You know what I mean? Like, all material, and they wouldn't give this kind of stuff a second thought. And I think that this is, you know, it's no different than exercising the body. It's good exercise for the mind, I think,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think the more we talk about it and raise some of these topics, I think it is good reason. I think it just spurs on our intuitive study, whether we're actively doing it or not. I think just some of these topics are just so out there. When you have these experiences, like I say, unless you're just the most comatose person, not paying attention to it, I think you're naturally going to open up your intuition, whether you really were looking to do that or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think the level of curiosity for some people, and maybe it's something beyond curiosity for others, it's just going to be profound. I just see all of this increasing a lot, but I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it will be rather, and part of this I'm speaking for myself, kind of shocking, because it is something completely different. So it can be rather devastating when you experience something so profound, and it's so unlike anything you've experienced before. But I think going forward it's going to be more positive, because I think more people are going to be reaching out and talking about it. I know I've seen that a lot just with the Mandela effect in the last week, in terms of different groups and things, like you said, about the internet connecting with people all over the world, where people are talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And some people are expressing concern, because they feel they're kind of crazy, but, this, I don't know. I think something that 13-year-old said, about the CERN, possibly doing that, to me, that feels like it could be right. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I just see that comment, kind of opening a door for a lot of people in terms of their thinking, and just opening their options to, oh, wait, maybe everything we've been told isn't right or isn't true,
Or it's not true here, but it's true where we can, And what if you and I, like I said earlier, came from two different universes, and so in one of those universes it is true, and one of the universes it's not true, right?
Right.
And so this is like that's the thing that really, if we can all be right and all be wrong at the same time, depending upon who has home field advantage.
Yeah.
And so now I can always just say, well, it's true where I came from. And so very interesting stuff though, and none of it, again, because I think, and I'm coming to this conclusion just at this precise second, like in a way as to actually say the words out loud. None of this worries me, because we are infinite. Our soul is infinite. We're like, there is no end. Like how he starts this whole thing, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be, sort of changed, right? Like, I mean, it can transmuted, whatever. Not transmuted, but like, I can't remember. Transferred is, I think, the word he used. And so, none of this do I fear, because I will go on and on and on and on. And whether I die because a cow sits on my head or kicks me in the head in the field, or because a toilet seat falls from the sky, or because a drunk driver hits me, or because some science lab does an experiment, you know what I mean? Or some doctor gives me the wrong medication, or what, like, I will go on. There's nothing to fear,
Right.
And so that's kind of, and maybe part of that whole thing is for human beings to go ahead and, as we talk about on a micro level, for some people talk about, we come into a human life and existence to have experiences and to feel things we can't feel when we're not in a physical body, and experience things that we can't experience when we're not in a physical body. And so on a more macro level, perhaps all of these things have to be taking place for the highest of us, the highest of ourselves, we always talk about my higher self, but how about what if there's a highest self? You know what I mean? There's the self, the higher self, and the highest self. And so maybe the highest self, needs to ultimately see how it all pans out, and every possibility, everything, and the good and the bad, and so all this stuff has to play out. But I thought that was an interesting thing, and it warms my heart that there's young kids, that at his age are like thinking at that level.
It gives me hope for humanity. Maybe we can save it yet.
Well, but he's one of these physicists that maybe one day he's going to be doing experiments like this. You know what I mean? And so, like, because it's physicists and whatnot that are doing this, right?
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I've tried to find out more information about some of these people that are at CERN, I'll get a little bit of information, and then it's like the trail just kind of stops.
Right. Yeah.
And then I haven't gone back to it because I just get a feeling of, well, do you really want to go there? You already don't have a really good feeling about this. And I think, no, I think I do need to hold off at least for a while.
For any of you guys that are on the phone, if you want to come on, or Brian, if you guys want to pop on and say anything or get a reading, unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, just press the 1 button. If you're on via computer, just click on your mic to unmute yourself. And if you want to ask a question or comment on any of this, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I was hoping there might be other people that have opinions or experiences they want to share concerning some of the things we've been talking about with all of the kind of shifting going on, whether it's CERN related or CERN induced or not. There are a lot of things going on right now.
Yeah, there are. So in the meanwhile, we have about 8 minutes left in the show. So what I can do is toss on a song, and then we'll come and see if anyone has anything to say. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up, okay? After that?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. All right.
I really ought to know. Oh.
My God. They're speaking of aliens. One has just popped on. How's it going, Corrine?
Okay. How's it going with you guys?
Oh, it's going.
Good. No, I just wanted to mention something that happened to do with alternate universes and timelines and such. So the other day on Facebook, this woman who I know, she's a writer like myself, and I've met her a bunch of times, and so she posted from her mother who has Alzheimer's. She posted something that the mother said from the nursing home. She said, "Report from my mom at the home today." And she posted something that her mother said. In other words, it was this long paragraph of, "I have to go back to work today, but I'm afraid to park where I'm parking because kids gather." That was very involved. And that's all she posted. And I just found that so kind of ignorant for her to post, because you're a writer and you write about all kinds of things, and yet, and yet you're posting what your mother said from their home while she's Alzheimer's. I found it very offensive, and so I said something about it. The point is this, that how does she know her mother doesn't have to go to work? What if her mother is already in that other dimension, or is in that past dimension and feels like she has to go to work? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was I was kind of like, and she said, well, I don't think I posted it as a joke, did I? I said, no, you didn't post it as a joke, but it was really like, oh, here's the report from my mother in the nursing home. In other words, like flippant. And, I don't know, I took it totally like, are you an idiot or what? Anyway.
Yeah. No, I get it. What are you gonna do though? You know what I mean?
No, I know. I mean, on one side, it's not fair for me to judge her on how she deals with this. It's not fair for me to judge at all. But, on the other hand, I feel like, why, you know what I mean? Like, at least if I was going to post something that my dad had said, I would say, oh, here's what my father said, and it kind of makes sense to me, or I can see where that would happen on some other timeline that they might be in. It's called dementia and not Alzheimer's, but dementia for a reason, because they're on a different dimension,
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Anyways. But Dianna...
could be going for all she knows.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So, Dianna, you spoke of, just to ask you a question here, you spoke of times where you felt like you were in different dimensions. Can you kind of tell us one of those instances? Because I kind of know what you're talking about, because there's been times in my life that I felt like I was not, it almost feels like you're not here, but you're like sort of outside, you're in yourself, but you're outside of yourself, that things are happening strangely, different ways. But can you kind of explain what happened to you in those times?
Yeah, one time I was at a restaurant and everything was fine, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't suddenly, it was a very gradual thing. I noticed shifts in what I experienced in terms of my senses. I noticed the music sounded a little funky, and I would stop and I'd kind of pay attention to it. And then, what else? Oh, I noticed that whatever I had to drink, it was sweet, whether it was a soda or tea with sweetener in it. And I noticed when I was drinking that, it didn't taste sweet at all anymore. It didn't taste bad, but it just did not taste sweet. And I thought, wow, this is different. What's going on? And then as a little bit more time progressed, how do I want to say this? I don't know if I didn't see it with my physical eyes, but I just saw, I don't know if it was different colors or where I was getting this impression, but visually I was just kind of seeing some funky impressions, not, I don't want to say this. It was very, very subtle, where I would see like different lines, and I just had this feeling of myself kind of moving somewhere, but still being where I was. And so I would focus on where I felt like I was moving to, and I felt like I was in at least 3 other places besides at this table in this restaurant where I was sitting. And I told my friend I was with, I said, I feel like I'm in multiple dimensions right now. There's something weird going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
It's funky. Does that sound anything at all like anything you might have experienced, Corrine?
Well, I mean, I didn't notice, I did notice the land moving away from me, which is not really in keeping with this whole other dimension thing, but I was at this haunted place one time, and there was a house that we went to see on this hill in this nearby town, and the road, when we got to the top of the hill, the road seemed to shift backward, like it was further away. And so we weren't as close to the house as like I saw when we got there, but then we were pushed back. It was weird, Dianna. It was so weird. Like we were pushed back, and this was the time I wasn't drinking or anything like that,
Yeah, I've noticed that before too, but just for like a second or two where distance will be skewed in some way. It's a lot closer or further away, so I know what you're talking about on that. And I don't know how long yours lasted. Like I said, mine was very brief. The thing I experienced in the restaurant was a little bit longer. That was a period of minutes, maybe 10 to 20 minutes.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I think this was, I'm going to say 5 minutes tops.
Okay.
But there's been other incidents too. And mostly, Dianna, it's when things are going really well that I'm like, this is just odd. You know what I mean? Not that I'm so used to things going bad, but I mean, it's like that synchronicity happens and I feel like the good synchronicity happens and I'm propelled out of the usual, atmosphere. I can't explain it exactly, but I think you might know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
The changes are rather subtle, correct? The shifting you noticed, whatever it is, it's subtle. It's
yes.
A dramatic change, correct?
Right. It's not like I'm seeing a huge castle to the right of me that's not there. It is subtle, but you feel a different atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's weird, but I like when those things happen. I mean, I probably wouldn't like it if it was propelling me into some bad, dark place or something, but usually it's really good when that happens. And like I said, I don't know if it's just inside of myself or if it's happening outside of me. So.
Well, when I experienced it, there wasn't so much a judgment in terms of good or bad in the other places because I was kind of looking for that. You know, that's what we're geared to do. And I had these it was weird because this familiarity would come in terms of like, I want to say people, but that's not right. It was more like energies because these other dimensions, sometimes there weren't really people. They weren't even really physical. But I had remembrance or I could recognize some of the souls, people, whatever you want to call it, in some of the other places. But yeah, I didn't know them. I recognized them when I was in those places, but I did not recognize them as I would focus back on the person sitting in the restaurant. Because I was aware of all of my, these multiple dimensions at the same time, which was kind of invigorating and kind of scary all at the same time.
Right.
I thought, really, supposedly humans use like less than 5% of their brain, and I'm thinking, I can tell I'm pushing beyond that 5%, and I'm not sure if I really feel comfortable here.
Right.
Because it's just so different.
Yeah, so interesting,
Yeah, and I really think that a lot of us people listening to the show tonight and participating, I think we're going to have to help some of the people that are more of the zombie class when they start to have some of these experiences, because some of them are going to have them anyway, and a lot of people are going to be freaking out, I think. I've had funky stuff happen all my life because of my intuitive adventures and gifts, but to people that haven't really paid attention to that part of their life, and then if they have some of this super stuff, especially if something outside of ourselves, like the CERN collider or anything else, in the physical world might be helping amplify all that, it could be quite traumatic. I don't think it has to be. Like I said.
Oh, I know. And there's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dianna. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say I think for a lot of people that haven't really utilized their intuition, any experiences like what we've been talking about here, it could be very traumatic. And I think other people that have had those, I think it's going to help them if we kind of reach out and just keep communicating about it.
Oh, exactly. And, I think I've told you guys about the other chat room that I go do readings in for free sometimes, although that's coming to an end. But because I don't want to do free, well, I want, whatever, long story. So the other, but you know, at least one time or a couple times when I'm doing free readings, all these people come forward because there's so many people in the chat room, and at least one or two times, someone will say, I've had these strange experiences and I don't know what to do. And I know that's got to be happening a lot now, like you just said.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are just so many shifts going on, and I'm getting that there are multiple causes for it. It's not just CERN. You know, some of it is just life and the earth, and you know, the dynamics of matter and the dynamics of spirit too. There's just a lot of changes going on right now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then you get that amplified, especially if any of it is more malevolent. You know, that's not to say there aren't more benevolent forces out there, because I think there are. But, you know, you get a different mix of the energies, and it's kind of funky for us, you know. And imagine the people that don't really even recognize their intuition, what that's going to be like.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Is Amy there?
Unmute yourself, Amy. Push 1 if you're there. I'm frozen.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm reading this book right now. It's from 1979, and it's by Colin Wilson, who was he died a few years ago, but he was a very well-known paranormal, supernatural, occult type writer. And it's called Superpowers. And he interviews 3 different people at the time on, one guy is really good at manifesting, another woman is doing automatic writing. That's the chapter I'm on right now, and I'm not sure what the third one is, but you know, again, I have to say these older books are so valuable in terms of information.
What did you say that was called? Superpowers?
I think it's called Superpowers. Yes.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get it for like hardly any money at all. It's just a paperback. I happened to pick it up at a friend's store, and but he's talking about this guy who manifests things, and about, you know, to me now in this day and age, the guy seems like he has Asperger's, like the way he describes the guy and the way the guy acts. He seems like he has Asperger's, but basically the guy is telling him that he's so directed in his thoughts that okay, so say what this guy always wanted to do in his life was just live on a boat somewhere and just be, you know, so anyways, but by the end of the interview, the guy is living on a boat and doing what he wants to do with freedom, the freedom he wants to explore spirituality and himself and everything else. But so throughout his tales of this guy's life, the guy is saying, like, he never veered from his thoughts, Dianna. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and we know that just focus on what you want, imagine it, and it'll be there. We all the time. But this is what the guy did. And he, you know, I'm not saying that the guy is like a millionaire or what. This was back in 79. I don't know what the hell he's doing now, if he's even still alive. But I'm saying that focusing, really truly focusing and not letting anything veer you from what you imagine your life to be, that you want your life to be, is huge. But there's very few people that can do that. Just focus on that. It's almost impossible when you're trying to pay bills and everything else, but this guy did it somehow, and he actually 1,000 times he told his friend, this happened 1,000 different times. He went into a store and he said, we're going to go into this store and we're going to take whatever we want, and for free, and we're going to walk out. So he did this 1,000 times in 1,000 different stores. Every time they walked in, because his friend kept saying, it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. Every time he walked in, the clerk had a delivery, or the clerk had to go to the bathroom, or whoever was there it was only them in the store. And he took a little thing from the store each time. But I mean, it's just like, so the friend was like, how do you do this? I mean, how do you commandeer this? And he said, because I know it's going to happen. And there was another thing about the guy too. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, it was so interesting. And then with the lady with the automatic writing, and he said a really important thing. He said, everyone who's channeling, Colin Wilson said this, he said, everyone who's channeling or automatic writing or supposedly getting information from beyond to create something such as a painting or music or a book. He goes, no one has said anything that is that important. No one has said anything that somebody else couldn't have already said, or that the person doing it couldn't have already done themselves. And that's true. We talk about this all the time, Chris. We talk about messages that come through. You're not telling me anything I don't know. You know what I mean? You're just going on about what we already know in a different word set. It's like, so, which brings me to ask the question, what is going on with that? Because if we could really get genius, or I don't know what you would call information from the...
I was right by the train station. I take the train to work and then walk. And then the apartment I got, the parking, the next thing kind of car that I don't want to get a new car. And I was like, I don't want to get a car now. It's so fun not having. I was renting a car for a while. And I just don't feel like that. I save a lot of money not having a car. But you don't like.
Are you talking? Are you talking to us, Amy, or are you talking to someone else?
It worked for a year, so.
She's talking to the Uber guy.
Okay, so we're just gonna
get out.
So here's my thing is this though. And it's not unlike you too. When you're giving your readings, you want to give as much validation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way to do that is to tell people stuff they know already. Yeah, because you can't tell somebody stuff they don't know because they can't validate it for you then. And so that's where part of that comes from in terms of mediumship. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so similarly, with respect to even a psychic reading, like, will I get that, the boyfriend or what, like this is stuff that you'll almost never get the validation of because the person ain't calling you back to say, oh, you were right or what. If they paid you $100 and you were wrong, they might call you back to say you suck, you were wrong, But
right.
So there is the conundrum right there as it relates to. That's why I say, like, give a few validating things so that you know you're on the right track, and then give the message, and then whatever will be with that. You know what I mean? And so if it's a psychic versus mediumship reading, then a psychic example of a psychic reading giving a few validating things is, oh, like, did you recently break up with a guy with dark hair? And, oh, did you, your green car, did it have a low tire? Okay, now you got a couple of yeses, a couple of validations. You're connected to the person. Their question is, when will I be moving or where will I be moving? Oh, I see mountains, blah, 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 and da-da-da-da. And, I see colors on the trees, so it's fall. You know what I mean? And then there you go. You won't know until fall whether you were right or not, and they would still have to contact you back to tell you that you were right.
Right. And yes, I totally agree with that. However, talking about when people say they're channeling Archangel Michael, or they're channeling Jesus, or they're channeling whoever, why is it rudimentary, pragmatic crap that we've heard a million times? I'm just wondering what could be the reason for that.
Well, the people who are defending it might say, because you have to keep being told it because you ain't getting it. Now, I don't mean you individually, but we collectively. You know what I mean? We, the people.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't getting it. We aren't getting the message because our conduct is not in alignment with that message. But that would be the person defending it. The person attacking it would say, like, they're just picking up, like, cut and paste crap that's woo-woo lollipops and cotton candy, you know, and it's not real. They're not channeling Mary Margaret or Mary Magdalene or what they might be channeling Mary, you know what I mean? That's how not channeling Mary Magdalene.
No, I find, you know, and he also said this about her channeling in terms of automatic writing. He said she produced a couple things where her hands started to twitch, and he said, here, take some paper, tell me what it says. So she wrote down some stuff, she handed it to him, and it was like, things like, well, one thing, and it was, hearken unto me, I am eternal, and some other stuff. And he said, well, I finally determined really that there's as many neurotic people that are egotistic on the other side as there are here.
Right. The one time I woke up with this really strong, like, it was like I saw it written in my mind's eye in my dream or whatever it was. But it resounding in my head and this was many years ago, and I wrote it on, had a thing on my fridge that's like a little teeny whiteboard, you know what I mean? And I don't even think I've ever erased it, you know, but there's a bunch of other junk also written on there now too, but, and it was like, love once before it's time to go. And, I like didn't know who that was for because it couldn't have been for me because I've loved well more than once. You know what I mean? And so I took that to be like that was supposed to be now, if I remember correctly, within, you know, I can't remember how long of that happening, you know, I was talking with somebody, I think on the show even, and like it just came to me that maybe that was the person that was meant to be for, you know what I mean? But it could be. But it could also be just a global for anybody who cares to listen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Love once before it's time to go. Now, Amy, you've unmuted yourself again. We enjoyed your conversation with Uber. Amy. Amy.
Oh, I'm here. I was, but then I muted myself because I'm walking up to my apartment, so I didn't want you to hear my bags or my panting or anything. I just want to work. Anyway, so what's going on?
Not much. What's up? We heard your whole conversation with your Uber driver.
Oh, you did?
Corrine asked a question, and then all of a sudden you started talking. So for a while, like, I didn't know if you were answering her question or if you were, and then we realized, no, she's not talking about cars.
Oh, how did that? Oh, because I thought I didn't know that I had. Now there's a train. I have a very noisy life. Oh yeah, that was my Sorry about that. Anyway, so I Ubered home, and now I'm home. And tomorrow's another day.
And tomorrow's another day. And tomorrow's already here. Tomorrow is now for you. I say tomorrow is now for you.
No, because I'm in Central Time. It's not tomorrow yet.
right. You're in. I gotta keep remembering them. Dang.
I know. I don't remember it. I don't remember it so much either.
Dang.
It's a complicated time zone to be in because it's not like Pacific time. It's not like a major time zone. So.
Right. Like you're just 1 hour or earlier.
They don't
than
change the TV show. You have to watch the TV shows early. You can't. It's not like Pacific where they broadcast them. So very confusing time zone.
Corinne, how you type loud.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. You're not muted.
So I went. So Cindy had a show tonight because to bring us all up to date about her hurricane, her hurricaning.
Where's she at?
Well, she's back at her house in Key West.
Her house still exists. Her house still exists.
Yeah, they might have to move out because there's water in the walls.
Yeah. Wow, I thought that her place might be at risk of being leveled,
Well, Key West didn't get it as bad as the other parts in the Keys. So, and apparently they didn't get it as bad as many of the people in Key West. So.
Oh, okay. So they didn't as bad as some of the other people in Key West.
Correct.
Mind you, if you have to disassemble your whole home because all the walls are, you know what I mean? It's pretty much as, in fact, it's almost better if the storm leveled your place. Although, she must hopefully, how high did the water get? Like, did a bunch of her keepsakes get destroyed, or was most of that safe?
I don't know. Corinne, do you know that?
I think that everything was basically intact. I don't think things got destroyed. It's just that it was permeated with water. That's the impression I got.
Yeah, and then you get black mold, and it's a
yeah, that's what I mean.
Extensive process.
It all has to be taken down, which was my point, was to say, may as well let the storm demolish the house, and then all you have to do is build. You know what I mean? Instead of you having to demolish it first and then.
Yeah, because a lot of the mold, it's harder with the insurance company because they'll only give you $10,000 for mold. And $10,000 often isn't enough to remediate it.
Oh,
no.
That's bad. Yeah. That's bad.
Right.
What a bunch of bastards.
But she was talking, Chris, about how the blessings outweighed all the bad stuff that happened, and how she met a gentleman at the hotel that they went to that had a near-death experience, and he ended up giving her a really good rate, and they had a room every night at the hotel, even though many people couldn't get a room every night at a hotel in that area. So, I mean, she's so positive. I mean, she really is just so positive,
Yeah, she is. She's good. She's good people. Good people.
Yeah, she's very genuine about her positivity. It's not like psychobabble.
Yeah.
Right.
For her. Well, that's good. That's one less person to worry about.
Right now, there's 2 more hurricanes.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
There was a year that I was down there, 2005, and there was 5 hurricanes.
Yeah.
But they really take a toll on your psyche. They really, even if you don't.
Yeah.
They're brutal.
Well,
I'm sure they do.
Because you don't never know the path it's taking, and so you're always, if they're coming your way.
On the run. That was the part that I couldn't stand. We were just always packing up and crisscrossing the state. But now I live in Chicago and we don't have hurricanes, so.
You just have to dodge the bullets from all the gangs, that's all.
Yeah, they're in a different part.
Yeah. Usually, in my opinion,
I haven't seen where I live. There's no crime. I mean, it's all in one area.
Except for these time where there's a ricochet drive-by bad bullet thing, usually the bad guys are killing the bad guys in those gang situations, right?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much it's gang crime, and that's just, I mean, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's just so embedded in their culture, and they don't have much respect for life because so many of them end up in cars. I mean, it's a hard problem. It's a hard problem to solve. It's a hard problem. It's a hard problem to solve.
Yeah.
Did you see that story of that guy at Georgia Tech? I guess he was like transgendered, and he was like out with a knife, and he was like, and he wouldn't put the knife down, and he kept telling the cops to shoot him. And he was obviously having some sort of mental breakdown. And the cops shot. I mean, they didn't tase him. He just had a little pocket knife, and the cops didn't tase him. They shot him dead.
Was that the one where he was being bullied or something, or is it a different case? Maybe it's a different case. Was this recently?
This was over the weekend. Yeah, it was like
new one.
Yeah, and he wasn't he was like the head of the, Rainbow Coalition or whatever, and he was real, active, and apparently this was like really out of character. I don't quite know what to make of the whole thing. So it seems like, I mean, I get it if you're not listening to the cops.
Yeah.
But I mean, that you would think that the cop would have more training in mental illness, because obviously. So this is the part I can't figure out. Is it good that the cops shot him, or is it bad that they shot him? Because he wanted the cops to shoot him. So,
Right.
Yeah. But
should they have not shot him? And then,
well, it's just like you said, Amy. They need more training in mental illness. And that's what a lot of these cases come down to, mental illness. Not all of them by any stretch, but a lot of them come down to mental illness.
Well, here's the thing. And again, like I've talked about this in the past on the show, which is to say, give people a legal right to, some form of assisted suicide so they don't have to go death by cop or whatever and risk other people maybe or whatever, And, maybe that was, if he was really out there saying, like he was out there on a death wish, he didn't want to hurt nobody else. That doesn't sound like it, right, Amy?
yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like it. I don't really know. It's so hard to get.
How many of these can be avoided if a person can just go to a doctor's office somewhere or whatever, you know what I mean, and say, okay, I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you're mentally ill, you can't make a decision as to whether you should end your life or not. You're not in your right mind.
Well, wait a second. Now, hang on a second. Let's use the same standard as we use in a criminal case. So you can have a mental illness and still be held responsible for your crime. The only time when mental illness is a defense on crime is if you were unaware of what you were doing or unaware that what you were doing was wrong. And so there's a difference between being mentally ill versus being out of your mind, insane, incapable of controlling that. You know what I mean?
Suppose the guy was a schizophrenic. You know what I mean?
That's my point. So you go and you get assessed, and then, but if all you are is depressed and you want to be done, why can't you be done? Why do you have to go out by way of death by cop?
Well, I agree. Yeah.
So do the appropriate whatever, but I don't think you should put any stronger standard on it than you put for a criminal case, And, insanity. Insanity is you don't have a clue what you're doing and you have no control over what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just mentally ill. and you're guilty. You know what I mean? And so if that's the standard, then, because again, as I've said before, that's a whole different level of suffering. And why would we have compassion for somebody that's suffering from a Lou Gehrig's disease and suffering a long, painful death, slow death, than somebody with a mental illness who also is suffering a long, painful death, or rather, a long, painful life.
Right. So Mary's saying in the chat here that you're in Missouri, right? Mary, she's saying the city's been bad for the last 3 nights. This protest started because of a drug dealer. How many people do you think have died at his hands from drugs? But the young girl doing her homework in her room gets shot dead by the thugs. No one marched for her because there was a big march today.
Right. Yeah. No, and I agree. And there's been cases here where there have been like drive-by shootings, and the bad guys have the wrong house. Or we had one on one of the reserves nearby where a baby got shot, got killed by a mistaken, the bad guys had the wrong house, And but my only comment on was just to say usually the bad guys are killing the bad guys, like in the gang situations. And unfortunately, often, innocent people do get caught in the crossfire or in the middle. But you're right about who do we take up for? Who do we rally for? Who do we honor? Why do we always remember the bad guy's name and not the victim of the bad guy? That kind of thing. Yeah.
That's a hard thing to fathom. It's like, did the guy deserve to die because he was a drug dealer? The girl certainly didn't deserve to die. But I mean, if you look at things, if I was Renee, for instance, I'm not putting words in her mouth, but if I was Renee, I probably would think, well, that was meant to be. Both things were meant to be, and there's no reason to discuss it. However, I am much more human than that. And I get pissed off that the innocent people get killed. The young girl gets killed. And, I just get pissed off from that,
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that sucks.
Well, we can be both things. The thing that Mary Margaret's talking about is what is the human being's response to it? And, and there's seems to be no rhyme or reason about it. Sometimes it's all about what gets to the media's attention. You know what I mean? So much of this stuff happens that people don't know is happening. So if they knew it was happening, maybe they would go and carry signs and rally and have a midnight vigil or do something. You know what I mean? To remember the victim or to protest against, whatever thing led to the victim's death, but I can often not make sense out of, why some things, get such great, like it was like when remember the Kingery, like why doesn't Nancy Grace take her case on and publicize it all year long? You know what I mean? Instead of some other case that's similar in nature. You know what I mean? We can't get any nationwide sustained attention on the Tamara Kingery case, right?
Yeah, I was wondering about that, Chris. I was wondering if you had heard anything new on.
I hadn't, and it's been a while since I went in search of anything new. Maybe about. I have checked in on it this year, but with time going so fast, like a blink of an eye seems to be with spring. You know what I mean? So I could say a month ago, and it might have been 3 months ago. And because the concept of time is gone for me. Seriously gone. And but I do check in on it periodically. And still some something fishy there, but I'm not entirely convinced it's the guy, the husband, you know?
No, I'm not either. I mean, wow. You know, because we know that case so well now. You know what I mean?
Again, I'm going to say, my first gut reaction when I heard about that there was a teenage daughter that was not home that morning, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then later, my original gut feeling was, how was the relationship between the daughter and the mother? You know what I mean? And because something was bugging me about that. And then later on, when the documentary or whatever did come out, and then suddenly it's being said that, oh, the daughter went out looking with the friend, and the daughter and the friend saw the mother on the back of someone's motorcycle. Right?
Yeah.
That is so fishy.
Yeah.
And why people didn't pick up on how suspicious that was. And maybe the police have, but again, they have to have the evidence, and without the evidence, they just gotta let the time, you know, tick down, and eventually in these things, maybe 10, 15 years down the road, you know what I mean, the truth comes out. But to me, my first instinctual gut reaction was, where was the daughter in all this? And then when that daughter was the one that said, oh, she saw the mother on the back of a motorcycle, no.
Yeah.
No. So now, the daughter might have said that because she thought the dad did it, and so she thought she was covering for the dad, or she was trying to divert the cops because she did something. I don't discount that there could have been a bit of a struggle between the two of them. The mother's bedroom, I think, was at the top of the stairs, and so if there was even some kind of just little shoving match, or you know what I mean, and the mother fell down the stairs, broke her neck, instant death. You know what I mean? There didn't have to be a bunch of blood and guts or anything like that, right? And the kid freaks out. It's just, and gets scared and gets the friend over there, and poof, they go ditch the body somewhere. You know?
Right. That case is one hell of a freaking head scratcher. I mean, hey, not that I'm like freaking Dick Tracy or anything, but man, you know, how could there be no other proof? Well, of course they always need the body, and the body is nowhere. We don't know if there is even a body. You know what I mean? Yeah. And especially when she's like talking to her old boyfriend and blah, 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 blah. It's just,
so many different factors in it, and it's still very possible that something accidental happened. The husband and the wife had, or he kicked, or they had a fight when he was driving her home because she was sick. Remember? He went up, and they had a fight. Maybe she says, "Let me out," and he did leave her out, and then something happened to her then, and now he feels somewhat because. What decent man will leave his husband or his wife on a country road when she's sick and drive away? But if she was, you know, hitting on him and demanding that he stop the car and let her out, you know, I could see how a guy would do that, maybe with the intention of going back later or whatever. You know what I mean?
But Chris, didn't he say that he had brought her home and she was sleeping because she was sick?
Yeah.
Okay.
But my point is that. At that point, now that she is missing, like he maybe didn't do something to her, but now he doesn't want to admit, like, oh, I dropped her off, like I let her out, and we had a fight, and she wanted me to leave her out on the country road. And who's going to believe him if he says that anyway, right? So he feels a need to make up a story then, right? I mean, like, it's one of those where there's at least 3-4 possible things that happen there. Such a mystery.
It is totally a mystery. Did we ever get Renee's take on that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think she wasn't of the mindset that the husband did it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. she came across with some information about the color of a car, and like I think a building, like some stuff. And I looked at the map, I remember, and there was some building nearby. Remember, and there was other one, Kathleen, that saw the bridge and blah blah blah. And so all those things were like just what a like mystery. What a mystery. I hope one day before I die that I get to find out what really the truth was there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Fishy business.
Yeah, very fishy, very
Was
fishy.
Was that the one that someone called into the show?
Well, we had the husband on the show, remember?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember, the circumstances of
and
that.
That was also the one where Linda Crystal did her whole, interrogation of the guy.
Wasn't that also the one where Jan got all bent out?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and then I actually had somebody, like, some stranger contacts me on Facebook way months later, telling me, like, defending the husband, and that was all fishy. Like, it was just a really bizarre case, all the way around. And,
But Jan was helping the lady, correct? Or him, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, I don't want to say because we're on air, but anyways.
Yeah.
If I can't help somebody, I refer them to someone else. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. I remember how upset, like, Linda Crystal got because they didn't give her credit.
I know, I totally remember that.
On the there's like a 10-second clip of my radio show, and because fair use or whatever, I guess they wouldn't have even had to ask me if they could use that clip, and and so, but she doesn't see anything other than I didn't get credited.
Well, remember when Renee said, I can't remember when she said this, but she goes, when Kathy died, I felt something. She goes, and then when Linda died, she goes, it was nothing like when Kathy.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I still pray for Linda every night,
Hang on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just end the recording. It looks like Diana's call dropped. And so I'm going to end the recording. Thank you for listening, everybody. We're back on Wednesday, and we'll see you then.